Good evening everyone. Today we are going to discuss about the intestinal motility. First we have to know about the parts of the small intestine. The first part is the duodenum, next one is the jejunum, and the terminal one is the ileum. The ileum opens into the large intestine through the ileocecal sphincter. Let's come to the layers of the small intestine. This one is the innermost layer, that is the mucosa, and then submucosa, and the next one is the muscularis externa, and the outermost layer is the serosa. There are 4 layers. First is the mucosa, next one is the submucosa, then next one is the muscularis externa, and the outermost layer is the serosa. Again, this mucosa contains 3 layers. First one is the epithelial layer, and next one is the lamina propria, and the mucosa contains thin layer of muscle. It is the muscularis mucosa. These 3 layers forms the mucosa. And next is the submucosa, which contains the submucosal plexus. And next one is the muscularis externa. It contains two muscle layer. The inner one is the circular layer, and the outer one is the longitudinal muscle layer, and the outermost one is the serosa. See, this is the cross section. Here this is the serosa, and this is the longitudinal muscle layer, and this is the circular muscle layer. Between the circular and longitudinal muscle, the myenteric plexus are present. This is then important. This is involved in the motility of the small intestine. Then we have to know about the aim of the motility of the small intestine. As the food enters into the duodenum, the motility of the small intestine helps in the thorough mixing of the chyme. The chyme, which is nothing but it is a partially digested food from the stomach. The thorough mixing of the chyme with the pancreatic, bile, and the intestinal juice. It helps in the motility helps thorough mixing of the chyme. So, if the chyme is mixed with all these juices, the food particles get easily digested. This is the first aim of the motility of the small intestine. The next one is that after getting digested, the motility helps in the absorption of the nutrients in the small intestine. After getting absorbed, the remaining chyme which gets enters into the colon. This motility of the small intestine helps the chyme to move into the colon. So these 3 are the aim of the motility of the small intestine. And next come to the electrophysiology of intestinal smooth muscle. The intestinal smooth muscle has a slow wave of depolarization, but this is not action potential. This is the slow waves. Okay, it always has a slow wave. The potential always fluctuates between the minus 50 millivolt to minus 75 millivolt. It is not a constant one. So the slow waves of potential happens. But at sometimes the slow waves have a spike potential. Okay, this is a spike potential. So when the slow waves had a spike potential, the contraction of this muscle takes place. So slow wave happens at a regular interval. So the spike potential also happens at a regular interval. So the contraction of these muscles takes place at a segmental type of movement. Okay, so the segmental type occurs through the spike potential present in the spike potential caused by the slow waves of the small intestine. The small intestine is innervated by both autonomic innervations. First one is the parasympathetic stimulation. This parasympathetic stimulation enhances the intestinal contractility, and the sympathetic stimulations inhibit the intestinal contractility. So, the excitation of this excitability of the smooth muscle, that is the contraction of the smooth muscle, depends on the autonomic innervations, that is sympathetic and parasympathetic innervation, and the activity of the enteric neurons, that is the myenteric neurons, and also the circulating hormones. These three factors these three factors controls the contraction of the smooth muscle. Next, come to the types of intestinal movements. First one is the segmentation type. You already know this segmentation type is the contraction of a circular muscle present in the small intestine at a regular interval. It is a particular or a regular frequency of interval. So here see this image. Here the muscle is contracted, and after some time this part gets relaxed and the relaxed parts gets contracted. This alternate contraction and relaxation of this muscle helps in the chyme to get thoroughly mixed with the pancreatic, bile and intestinal juices. This thorough mixing helps in the digestion of the food products. So this segmental movement helps in the digestion of the food products, and also it helps in the absorption of the nutrients. Next one is the peristalsis. The progressive contraction of successive portion of the muscle. This is the contraction. When the chyme or bolus enters the intestine, the part of the intestine behind the bolus gets contracted, and the part of the intestine present in front of the bolus gets relaxed. So this helps in the forward movement of the bolus. So this is the peristalsis, and this is the law of intestine. So this contraction and the relaxation, helps the chyme to move forward and towards the colon. But this peristaltic wave also move towards the oral cavity, but at a small only up to the small distance it gets diminished. Okay, so this peristaltic waves will not cause any symptom. So the frequency of peristalsis increases. If the frequency of peristalsis increases, it is called rush peristalsis. It happens in the pathological conditions like diarrhea. I already said some waves of peristaltic waves move towards the oral cavity. In pathologic conditions like vomiting, antiperistaltic contraction of intestine takes place, leads to vomiting. And next come to the short range peristalsis. The peristalsis occurs only at the short range. So it helps in the forward movements of the bolus. So this short range peristalsis along with the segmentation, these two movements helps in the decrease the net rate of propulsion of chyme. Okay, so this decrease in the net propulsion of chyme helps the thorough mixing and the complete digestion and complete absorption to take place in the intestine. So this peristalsis and segmentation causes the complete digestion of the nutrients and complete absorption of the nutrients at the small intestine. Next one is the migrating motor complex. It is a vigorous, strong, propulsive contraction. It's a very strong propulsive contraction which starts in the stomach and it moves towards the small intestine and only terminates at the terminal part of the ileum. It happens in every 90 minutes. So it's a strong propulsive contraction. So to wipe off all the food particles, all the digested particles from the stomach and the small intestine towards the terminal part of the ileum. It washes away all the extra food particles and food substances chyme into the terminal part of the ileum. So it is called the housekeeper of the small intestine. As a migrating motor complex defined as a burst of intense electrical and the contractile activity. So this migrating motor complex also inhibits the migration of the colonic bacteria into the intestine. Sometimes the colonic bacteria tries to enter into the small intestine. So this strong propulsive contraction from the stomach inhibit the migration of the colonic bacteria. It is repeated for every 75 to 90 minutes. Once the migrating motor complex reaches the terminal ileum, another migrating motor complex starts in the stomach. Next come to the contraction of the muscularis mucosa. The muscularis mucosa is this is the muscularis mucosa. Muscularis mucosa is the outermost layer of the mucosa. Okay, this contraction of the muscularis mucosa leads to alternation in the pattern of the mucosal folds. So this mucosal fold alternation helps in the thorough mixing of the chyme with juices, and it also helps in the fresh chyme to come in contact with the mucosal surface. This fresh chyme, when the fresh chyme come in contact with the mucosal surface, the absorption of the nutrients takes place. So the contraction of the muscularis mucosa helps in both mixing and absorption. Mixing, that is the digestion and absorption. Next one is the villus contraction. This is the small intestine and this is the villus present in the small intestine. This is a single villus which contains the lacteal at the center of the villus. The importance of lacteal is it absorbs nutrients like fatty acids, lipoproteins, the fats, nutrients into the lacteal, and these nutrients get moved towards the lymphatic system. When the villus gets contracted, the nutrients absorbed in the lacteal will get move faster towards the lymphatic system, and this helps in the emptying of the central lacteal. So when it gets emptied, so this contraction of the villus increases the absorption of the nutrients. Next one is the intestinal reflexes. There are two reflexes, intestinal reflex and the gastrocolic reflex. First one is that when the part of intestine is over distended, rest will relax. The forward, the intestine present in front of the bolus gets relaxed. It is already seen in law of intestine. When the part of intestine is over distended, the rest will relax. This is mediated by local enteric neurons and the vagovagal pathway. Next one is the gastrocolic reflex. When the food enters the stomach, the ileum gets empty the chyme into the colon very fastly, because when the fresh food enters the stomach, the small intestine get ready for the new food to get digested. So the small intestine empty the chyme into the colon through the ileocecal sphincter. This is called gastroileal reflex. Next one is the law of intestine. When the bolus enters the intestine, the part of the intestine behind the bolus gets contracted and the part of intestine present in front of the bolus gets relaxed. So the propagation of ring of contraction in forward direction is the law of intestine. This is the ring of contraction. Propagation, that is the movement of ring of contraction in forward direction. So this helps in the movement of the bolus towards in a forward direction and towards the colon. This is the law of intestine. So this finally end with the motility of the small intestine. Thank you.